Hey, what's up guys? Node Investor here. What a week it's been, man. It feels like the last time I made a video was so long ago, and that was not even a week ago. So the markets have been good. We had some FUD and news out of Korea, shook things down, but so far we've held up nicely, and I'm seeing renewed strength in some of the alts. And I'm going to go over a handful that I'm going to pick through today. We're going to talk NEO, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and a handful of other alts that I'm seeing some strength and some setups here, and show you guys what I'm thinking about the markets here going forward. So first and foremost, I know we've got a lot of new listeners, a lot of new folks to the channel, and I just want to say thank you for being here, guys. For the last 2 weeks, have been trying to work my way out of a huge backlog in emails and in Twitter messages and such, and I'm almost there. And I just want to say, for those that have been waiting for my reply, I apologize. I have gotten some help, so that's going to start working its way through a lot faster, and somebody's going to help me with some of the other things on the business side of things that I can be a little more free to do some of this stuff. But I got a lot of emails from many of you just saying thanks, and I like what you're doing, and keep up the good work. And I gotta say, that's encouraging. I really appreciate that. I can't reply to all of them, but I just want to say, guys, thank you. Appreciate the good words. Many of you have asked about how to learn technical analysis. I'm going to be doing a video next about my top 5 books on learning technical analysis. But for those that don't want to read a book or spend the time doing it, if you don't already know, I do offer a video course. It's about 3.5 hours of videos. It's a good introduction to technical analysis. We'll teach you how to read charts, look at the patterns that I look at, some key technical indicators, bases, breakouts, trends, support lines, all that good stuff. And guys, technical analysis works. I know there's a lot of debate, and I will fully say it's not the end-all be-all. You can't just look at the chart mechanically and make your decisions purely on what you're seeing. You have to put everything into context, but it certainly helps by far. And I'm going to show you here a good example on NEO. But for those interested, nodeinvestor.com. There's a training tab. I've got 2 courses out there, Cryptocurrency 101 for those that are brand new wanting to get started in crypto, and technical analysis for those that want to learn how to increase your game with reading the charts. So now that we got that out of the way, let's take a look at the charts here, and I want to talk NEO. So I posted this chart of NEO yesterday, and this is what I was looking at. I was seeing this bull flag formation forming, right? We had the big run up in NEO last week, and from the early breakout that we had, this was the break from the downtrend. And so started putting in some positions right around here, and I mentioned that in the last video. And my private group and I were trading this, and we got in on some of this, took some profits along the way, made another trade. So this was a nice 70% rise, and it started to put in a pretty decent consolidation. But then I started seeing yesterday, hey, this is looking a lot like a nice bull flag. And a bull flag, you can do a little bit of a measured move where you take the pole, the flag, the breakout, and then the pole. And so I posted this yesterday before the breakout, and look at this. It's starting to move up nicely. And it's not every day it works out this nicely, but I was a little excited about this, going, look at that. And this one actually is working out pretty good so far. NEO is looking really strong. Here's what I did like about this, right? It was pulling in, but as it started pulling in, look at this volume. The volume really started to decrease here. And then on the breakout we saw late yesterday, we're seeing some volume coming back in. So good news. The reason I like talking about NEO so much is NEO is one of the leaders. During this whole correction here, the last couple of weeks, NEO broke out strongly on this first day up when we started seeing Bitcoin and some of the other ones break up. And NEO was up strong. And when you see that, it's one of the leaders. One of the other ones that I had mentioned that was doing something similar was Zcash. And Zcash had a huge run, and then I thought it was way overdone. And then news came out about it being added to an exchange, and just boom, up another 45–50%. Amazing. So you got to pay attention to the leaders that are coming out of the gate first and coming out strong, because those are the ones that they tend to keep going. And so NEO is looking good. Here's what I'm seeing next. We saw this bull flag setting up. It's breaking out now. Now we're marching up higher. The first test is going to be most likely right below this most recent high we had of a few days ago. So we'll probably be pausing here in the 81, 82 area, see if we can set up a little handle maybe, and then continue higher. If we continue higher, that's going to clear some pretty big resistance here, going back to this big base we saw before the big breakdown in NEO a few months back. And so if we can start to clear that, which is where the first rally paused at, then I can see us going up to 0.01 in that neighborhood. And that's also aligns with this measured move off of this bull flag. So that's my next target if we can break above this 82, 83 area on NEO. So keep an eye on NEO, guys. It's one of my top choices right now. I'm really liking the action. Another one is Ethereum Classic. And so I was looking at this. This is more of a, rather than a strength play, one of the leaders coming off, this is more of a very oversold, needs to bounce type of play. And that's what I was looking at on Ethereum Classic. This is Ethereum Classic on the USDT chart. I did mention this in my newsletter last Monday, and we still have not broken out of this resistance. We've bounced right into it. We're setting up a little bit of a consolidation here. And so let's see if it can move above that. That's going to be around, 1350, 1340. We start to clear above that. Could see a nice little run on Ethereum Classic. So keep an eye on this one. It is one of the weaker ones because it's been beaten up for so long that it's kind of lagging right here. But in the last couple of weeks, it certainly has had a nice little run off the bottom here. Up 32% off the lows, so not too bad on Ethereum Classic. One to definitely keep an eye on. Let's take a look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin clearly is the leader right now, super strong, and breaking out a little bit here of a little range. So in my last video, I said the downtrend was broken. We saw that happen, and we've been doing this little bit of a stair-stepping move up since then. So this was the break of the downtrend, and then we had another big move up. Honestly, it's been a little bit stronger than I expected. I thought, we might just kind of slowly work our way up, but we're seeing these nice little jumps, and here we are just shy of 4,400. Now 4,400 is going to be a big area to get across. That was one of the last big resistance points before Bitcoin broke out, and we are right there. So let's see what we do here over the weekend. Let me zoom out. This is the 4 hour, so you can see the resistance here. And this is where we broke down from, and now we've bounced right back to there. So I wouldn't be surprised if we put in a little bit of consolidation right around these levels. But if we can break above 4,400, next stop is 46 and change, and we are knocking on the doors of all-time highs there at that point, guys. So Bitcoin has had quite the run, quite the comeback. I'm liking what I'm seeing so far. It's looking good. And the whole news thing in China and Russia, that's going to continue, guys. That's just not going away. And so there will be those fluctuations, those little shakeouts, scare-outs. One thing that I'm thinking, though, that could be on the bullish side is there's two developments underway, right? If China comes out and says, here's the official stance and Bitcoin is not banned, but we're going to be working with XYZ exchange, and here's how we're going to regulate it, I think that's going to be fabulous news, because that's going to basically signal that China's reversing course, and we could see a good run on Bitcoin. And then the other thing is there's been a lot of speculation in the last couple of months about a Bitcoin ETF and derivatives of Bitcoin and options and futures. But if we do get an ETF that has to hold Bitcoin and doesn't have to just hold a derivative, that could be very bullish for Bitcoin. And if we start to hear news of that officially going through, I know there's been some, we're going to try to submit one and then it gets rejected or they withdraw it. But if one really goes through here between now and the end of the year, that could be huge for Bitcoin. So a couple of good developments there until this uptrend breaks here or pauses. I mean, I'm not going to be too worried. Bitcoin is looking good, and the altcoins are confirming that Bitcoin has some strength here. Let's take a look at Ethereum. So looking at Ethereum, hasn't run quite as much, and it was outperforming here up until the last week or so, and now it's just kind of sitting tight and has been underperforming Bitcoin a little bit. If you look at the Ethereum BTC chart, you can see that clearly since the 23rd of September, we've had this underperform, and Bitcoin has just been really strong. Now, I know there's the news of the next fork, and maybe people are moving out of Ethereum and some of these bigger names and back into Bitcoin so they can capitalize, if you want to say that, on the fork and get a double coin of whatever ends up being the new Bitcoin Gold or whatever they're coming up with next. It's another altcoin, but there might be another move like we saw last time where people are moving out of some of the altcoins and into Bitcoin. So they're holding Bitcoin when the fork happens, and that's going to be in October. We're still, or excuse me, November. We're still a ways out. We still got to go through October. So just one thing to keep an eye on. But Ethereum for now, Ethereum is underperforming slightly. And I was looking, I'm sorry, that's Ethereum Classic there. And what I was looking at was, it was putting in this nice little pattern here, was sitting right at resistance, right at 300. And it broke above, but then it didn't really hold. That whole Korean news knocked it back down. And here we are right back above there. So let's see if we can stay above 300. I really like to see it clear this low 300 zone. Beyond that, 340, 350 is going to probably be your next stop on Ethereum. And they also have some things coming out, and the project is undergoing some changes to the protocol. So a little bit of news and fundamental changes that could be driving this project as well. One that I'm liking here is IOTA. There's been a lot of rumor changes to the system. There was, you know, some bugs that were discovered, and I understand all of that. I get the concern, but what I'm looking at here is, since the big drop, we're starting to put in a little bit of a rounding base here. It's starting to find support, and that's lowers. The lows are getting higher here as it's starting to inch up, and it's sitting right here. In fact, it's kind of starting to clear it a little bit today. It was trying to edge out that 63-cent area on the USD. If we can break above that, that's going to be another little run, probably to about 75 cents, and then maybe from there to 80, 90 cents. So IOTA is looking pretty good. I know Binance is going to be adding them as an exchange. That's good. To date, it's primarily been traded on Bitfinex, and I think that's kind of held it back a little bit. So the more exchanges that start picking it up will certainly help to benefit the liquidity and the accessibility for IOTA. So keep an eye on this one, guys. Qtum. So this one is one I mentioned in the newsletter as well, and there was a couple of things in play here. So zooming out a little bit, we've been in this downtrend, and we were getting really close to breaking out of that downtrend, and we're right there today, just inching out, and it's starting to look really good here. Let me clear some of my technicals that I was doing here. But the other thing is, this green line is the neckline to a little bit of an inverted head and shoulder pattern on the 4-hour chart. So you can see that here, and we're starting to break out above that. Now we're pulling back into this line which correlates to the neckline. And so let's see if Qtum can start to head up higher here on this. But volume patterns are starting to look really good. You're seeing some good buy volume coming in. And if we look at the daily volume patterns, there's been nothing but a couple of good big support bars here in the last week. So I'm liking Quantum. I'm liking the way it's putting in a good low here. It still has a long ways to climb, no doubt, but if it can start to come above these hurdles, I mean, you can see some pretty big moves. Even to this first high back here, that's basically 30%. If we get to this high here, that's almost 60%. So Quantum, from a percentage basis, could set up for a pretty decent run here. I'm liking Quantum, guys. Lisk. I was talking Lisk last week. Didn't happen. Didn't break down. Didn't break out. In fact, it broke down from that symmetrical pattern it was putting in. And this is what I was looking at on the pattern here. That ascending triangle pattern changed here in the recent weeks and started putting in this symmetrical, and I said in the coming days we're gonna know. And I believe this last green bar was where the last video came out, and I said it's 1 or 2 days before we find out which way it's gonna go, and that's what happened. So it's breaking down right now, and we'll see if this can reverse. Right now it's right at the lows that it's been at since this whole pattern at the top here, and so it's gonna need to hold this if it's gonna have a shot. But what I don't like about Lisk now, since it's breaking down, it's starting to form a little bit of this rounding top pattern, and generally speaking that's bearish. So if it's going to want to turn that around, it's right there. You better see some big buy volume coming in to offset this. But right now Lisk is kind of off the list per se. until it puts in a better pattern, in my opinion. Not one I'm looking at anymore. However, ARK has been pulling back here, and let me clear this for you guys. ARK is one that I was liking as well, and mentioned this a few weeks back when it had this little run up. Now it's been pulling in, and it's looking like it's trying here. The thing to look at for ARK is this resistance here that it just broke down from a couple days ago. It's trying to get back above it, and it's living below the 10 EMA on the dailies. So until it gets above that, probably nothing to do. But let's see if this low holds. If this is the low for ARK, that could be a pretty decent retracement here that could set up a new base for another leg up on ARK. The good thing about ARK is had some pretty decent buy volume going into this run up, and the sell volume has been pretty light, so hasn't been any huge dumping yet on ARK, but definitely not in an uptrend yet, but it could be putting in a low here. So I'd like to keep an eye on it. I'm not doing anything with it at the moment, but one that you know, you just can't forget about these ones that have these nice run-ups. They have the good breakouts, they correct, they pull back, but don't forget about them, because sometimes they can set up a new base and set up another run here. So that's going to be it for today, guys. There's a lot more of them out there. Can't cover them all, but I just want to give you guys a quick update. Markets are looking good. We probably are due for a little bit of a pause, but I think some of the big ones that we want to keep an eye on for the coming days, probably NEO, maybe IOTA, and Quantum are the big three that I'm looking at right now. Till next time, take care, guys.